Let's be honest, your brain isn't lazy, it's strategic. Every second, it runs silent calculations, trying to figure out, is this worth my effort? Or should I save energy for something else? That's how it survived for thousands of years. When we were hunting or running from danger, wasting energy could kill us. So the brain learned a rule: only spend energy when the reward is clear. That wiring is still inside you today. It's why the brain hesitates before opening that 200-page book, but never thinks twice before opening TikTok. The logic is simple: hard work plus uncertain reward equals stop sign. Easy pleasure plus guaranteed comfort equals green light. Back then, this rule saved lives. Today, it's destroying attention spans. Because the world you live in now isn't neutral, it's engineered to hijack that very mechanism. Apps, food, entertainment, everything around you is designed to make your brain light up with dopamine, the chemical that drives wanting. And here's the catch: wanting is far more powerful than having. Think about how gambling works. It's not the win that hooks you, it's the anticipation before the win. That tiny spark of maybe this next one floods the brain with dopamine. Same thing with scrolling. Every swipe promises something new, and your brain loves that maybe. That's why even when you're exhausted, you still keep scrolling, even when you know it makes you feel worse. You're not broken. You're just running on ancient software in a world designed by neuroscientists who know exactly which buttons to press. But the problem is, dopamine has limits. Imagine you keep blasting your favorite song at full volume every day. Eventually, your ears numb to it. That's what's happening inside your head. When you bombard your brain with too many easy highs, constant notifications, snacks, memes, videos, it starts to protect itself by turning the volume down. This is called downregulation. Your dopamine receptors literally shrink in sensitivity. And that's when normal life starts to feel gray. The book you loved last year now bores you. The gym feels unbearable. Even spending time with people feels like work. You start calling yourself lazy, unmotivated, or broken. But it's not a personality flaw, it's chemistry. Your brain has built a tolerance, the same way an addict needs more of the drug just to feel normal. Now here's the hopeful part, because what's been rewired can be rewired back. That's where something called a dopamine detox comes in. Despite the name, you're not detoxing from dopamine itself. You're detoxing from the artificial overstimulation that's been hijacking it. Imagine your brain's reward system like a dimmer switch that's been cranked all the way up for years. Everything's too bright, too loud, too fast, so regular life feels dull by comparison. A detox simply means turning that brightness back down so your brain can see again. When you stop chasing instant pleasure, no short videos, no mindless scrolling, no sugary comfort, something almost magical starts happening inside you. Over a few days, your brain begins to reset. Your dopamine receptors upregulate, meaning they regain their natural sensitivity. Suddenly, a walk outside feels peaceful again. Finishing a chapter feels rewarding. Completing a workout actually gives you that small burst of pride you've been missing. You don't become a new person, you return to the person you were before the noise. But that reset isn't pretty. The first few days are rough. You'll feel anxious, fidgety, maybe even angry for no reason. That's withdrawal. Your brain is like a toddler being denied candy, it throws a tantrum. This is the moment most people quit. They think the discomfort means it's not working. But in truth, that's the best sign it is working. The chaos you feel is your brain rebalancing itself, unplugging from the constant buzz of cheap pleasure. If you can endure that, phase the storm before the calm, your brain starts to reorganize. It's literally building new neural pathways for focus, patience, and satisfaction. So how do you actually do this in real life? You start small. Step 1, identify your biggest dopamine traps, the things that give you massive pleasure for minimal effort. For most of us, it's our phone, social media, short videos, endless feeds. For others, it's fast food, online shopping, or even obsessive checking of messages. Then, you remove those, not forever, just long enough for your brain to breathe. 3 days is a warm-up. 7 days creates visible change. 2 weeks, that's transformation. And this part matters, you can't just remove. You have to replace. Nature hates a vacuum, and so does your mind. If you take something away, your brain will look for something else to fill that hole. So fill it with what I call slow dopamine. Read a physical book. Cook your own meal instead of ordering. Take a walk, no headphones, just wind and thought. Exercise without music, let your breath be the rhythm. Write your thoughts down by hand. Call someone you care about instead of texting. At first, these things feel boring, almost painfully boring. But stay with them. Because boredom is not emptiness. It's the space your brain needs to reset its sensitivity. Eventually, it begins to anticipate these activities too. You start to crave the focus that comes with reading, the satisfaction that comes from finishing a workout. You're teaching your brain that effort can feel good again. Now, let's talk about something most people misunderstand, the difference between pleasure and satisfaction. Pleasure is easy. It's like a sugar rush, it hits hard and disappears fast. It comes from outside, a notification, a cookie, a like, a video. Satisfaction, though, is slower. It takes effort. It's built internally, from doing, creating, finishing, overcoming. The irony is, satisfaction actually produces more dopamine in the long run, but it's released gradually and meaningfully. Think about runners who chase that runner's high, or artists who feel deep peace after finishing something beautiful. That's not shallow excitement, that's the brain's reward for sticking with something hard until the end. The problem is, modern life gives you an all-you-can-eat buffet of cheap pleasure, so you never stay hungry long enough to earn satisfaction. You can scroll, snack, swipe, and binge your way through every emotion, but still go to bed empty. Because pleasure without effort doesn't feed the soul. That's why dopamine detox isn't punishment, it's nourishment. You're not taking joy away, you're rebuilding your ability to feel joy again. Here's the science behind that shift. When you delay gratification, meaning you resist the urge for instant pleasure, you activate the prefrontal cortex, the brain's executive center. This area handles planning, logic, and self-control. Every time you choose discipline, you literally strengthen it, like lifting weights for your mind. But when you give in to instant gratification, click, snack, scroll, repeat, you activate the limbic system, the primitive, emotional part of your brain. That's the same system that drives addictions, impulsive spending, and procrastination. So every time you resist distraction, you're reprogramming your biology, upgrading from animal brain to human brain. Over time, the battle between should I work or scroll starts to fade. Discipline stops feeling like war. It starts feeling natural, almost automatic. That's what real self-control looks like. Not constant willpower, not fighting temptation every second, but reshaping your neural pathways so that focus becomes the default mode. You're not forcing yourself to do hard things anymore. You're wanting to do them. And that's the goal of all of this, to flip the switch, to make the same neural circuits that once made you crave distraction now crave progress. When you stop numbing yourself with easy hits, life gets richer. The taste of food improves. The sound of silence becomes comforting. You feel the satisfaction of completing small tasks again. Think about it like restoring color to a faded painting. After years of overstimulation, everything around you looks washed out. But once you step back from the noise, the colors start coming back, vivid, clear, alive. There's also an emotional layer to this that science often overlooks. When your brain's constantly chasing stimulation, you become allergic to stillness. Sitting quietly feels unbearable because it forces you to face yourself, your fears, your boredom, your unfinished dreams. That's why detoxing is both chemical and spiritual. It strips away the distractions that keep you from hearing your own mind. Once you sit with that discomfort long enough, something shifts. You stop fearing silence, you start listening to it. And from that silence, motivation starts to rise naturally. Not from guilt, but from clarity. That's how discipline is born. Not as a grind, but as harmony. It's when doing the right thing feels aligned with who you are, not like a punishment from the universe. So when people say, I just don't have motivation, what they really mean is, my brain's reward system has been hijacked. They've trained their mind to associate effort with pain and ease with pleasure. The dopamine detox is simply retraining that association, teaching your brain that delayed reward feels better than instant gratification. And once you cross that threshold, something beautiful happens. You stop needing tricks, hacks, or motivational quotes. You stop waiting for inspiration. You just do. Because your brain, the same brain that once begged for distractions, now finds peace in focus. That's the secret most people never discover. Discipline isn't about grinding harder. It's about removing the noise long enough for your natural drive to come back to life. When you go through a real dopamine reset, something subtle but powerful starts to shift. At first, it's not fireworks, it's quiet. You wake up one morning and realize your mind feels lighter. You're not reaching for your phone the second your eyes open. You can actually sit with a cup of coffee and think. That silence that used to feel unbearable now feels peaceful. Your attention span stretches like a muscle that's been asleep for years. You can finally read a few pages without flipping to something else. You sit down to work, and for the first time in forever, an hour passes, and you didn't even notice. That's not magic. That's what your brain was designed to do before it got hijacked by glowing screens and notifications. Creativity sneaks back in too. You start having ideas again, real ones. Maybe while showering, or walking, or cooking. And those ideas aren't random noise, they're connected, they make sense, they lead somewhere. That's your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that creates, plans, and focuses, finally breathing again after years of being drowned in digital chaos. Even your mood shifts. You don't feel that roller coaster of highs and crashes anymore. You're not chasing something to feel alive. You just are. And that sense of quiet energy, that's stability. That's what being balanced actually feels like. People often think this level of calm means you're losing excitement or fun. But it's the opposite. You start getting excited about real things again. That project you've been avoiding suddenly feels interesting. The gym doesn't feel like punishment anymore. You're not forcing yourself to do things you actually want to. This isn't about toxic positivity or pretending life is easy. It's about your brain finally functioning the way it was built to. Focused, alive, instead of being yanked around by 1,000 digital leashes. But here's the truth, none of this lasts if you go back to the same environment that broke you. Willpower alone won't save you. It's like trying to stay sober while living in a bar. You can't out-discipline your surroundings. You have to design for discipline. So, start small. Keep your phone in another room when you work. That one step changes everything. Out of sight, out of mind is more than a saying, it's neuroscience. When the trigger disappears, the craving loses power. Delete the apps that drain you. Don't trust yourself to resist them. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. Your brain isn't made to fight constant temptation. It's made to adapt to structure. The same goes for your physical space. Make healthy choices visible and easy. Keep fruit on the counter. Keep water on your desk. Lay out your workout clothes the night before so that the decision is already made when you wake up. On the other hand, make distractions annoying. Hide junk food. Log out of entertainment sites. Move the TV remote somewhere inconvenient. These are small friction points, but they add up. Every obstacle between you and distraction is a vote for your future self. Think about it this way, the environment you live in is like an autopilot for your habits. You can't fight it every day. You have to program it once and let it guide you. But the environment isn't just physical. It's social. Your brain constantly mirrors the people around you. It's called social contagion. You pick up not just words or mannerisms, but energy, habits, and even dopamine patterns. If your circle scrolls all day, complains all night, and lives for the next weekend binge, your brain will sync with that rhythm, no matter how strong you think you are. You don't need to cut everyone off, but you do need to curate your circle. Spend time with people who make discipline feel normal.
I agree.
The ones who talk about ideas, projects, learning, not just gossip and memes. People whose default setting is focus. It's strange how we treat productivity like a solo mission, when it's one of the most contagious things on earth. Surround yourself with people who build, and you'll find yourself building too. Sometimes the biggest change happens quietly, just by being around the right energy. Like walking into a gym, you don't even need to start lifting immediately. Just being surrounded by people who are doing the work changes your standard for what's normal. You start to think, maybe I could do that too. That's how the brain works. It adapts to whatever it sees repeatedly. Now, let's talk about the mindset shift that glues all this together. A lot of people hear about discipline and think, that sounds miserable. Why would I make life harder on purpose? But that's your old wiring talking. That's your dopamine hack brain trying to protect its comfort zone. Because right now, your brain associates easy with safety and effort with pain. But once you rewire it, that flips. Discipline actually feels easier than distraction. Why? Because distraction keeps you anxious and unsatisfied. It gives you 10-second highs followed by 10-hour guilt. Discipline, on the other hand, gives you something deeper: peace. Not comfort. Peace. That quiet satisfaction of knowing you did something that mattered, even if no one saw it. The deep sleep that comes after a day of alignment, where what you said, thought, and did actually matched. Short-term comfort always leads to long-term chaos. Short-term effort always leads to long-term freedom. That's the trade your brain learns to make once you stop letting algorithms decide what you crave. And that's really what this is about: reclaiming control. Because if you're honest, you probably haven't been in control for a while. Your phone decides when you feel bored. Your notifications decide when you feel needed. Your feed decides what you think about. And every like, every swipe, every video, it's shaping you. Not the other way around. That's not freedom. That's a well-designed cage. Real freedom isn't the ability to do whatever you want, it's the ability to choose what you want consciously. It's waking up and saying, I'm gonna work on this, and actually following through. It's walking away from instant pleasure because you're more interested in long-term peace. True freedom is when your mind works for you, not against you. When effort feels natural, and focus feels like home. When the hard thing feels right, not because it's easy, but because it's aligned. And here's something that most people miss: rewiring never really ends. There's no final version of you that's perfectly disciplined, perfectly focused, perfectly immune to distraction. Your brain is a living system. Every day you're either reinforcing discipline or reinforcing distraction. Every moment is a vote for one side or the other. But after a real detox, the choice gets easier. You don't feel like you're fighting your own mind anymore. You start to act from intrinsic motivation, doing things not for rewards, not for validation, but because doing them feels right. That's the highest form of discipline. It's not forced. It's not performative. It's authentic. You stop saying, I have to, and start saying, I get to. You don't work out to punish yourself. You do it because you love how it clears your head. You don't read to seem smart. You read because it feeds your curiosity. You don't build routines to look productive. You do it because order gives you peace. And when you reach that point, you stop chasing motivation altogether. You realize that motivation was never the problem. The problem was noise, too much stimulation, too little stillness. Motivation is what naturally appears when your brain is clear and your values are aligned. Now, if you want to put all this into action, there's one last step. A challenge. Pick the single biggest source of empty dopamine in your life. That one habit that gives you quick pleasure but leaves you drained. Maybe it's TikTok. Maybe it's junk food. Maybe it's online shopping or gaming or doom scrolling through bad news. Whatever it is, name it. Write it down. Then commit. Not forever, just 7 days. 7 days of letting your brain breathe. At first, you'll feel restless, even a little lost. You'll find yourself reaching for it automatically. That's how deep the conditioning goes. But don't judge yourself. Just notice. Notice when the craving hits, how long it lasts, what emotion triggers it. Somewhere around day 4 or 5, something starts to change. The restlessness fades. You start feeling calmer. You notice new things, the sound of the wind, the way your thoughts actually form complete sentences again. And you'll realize that you haven't lost anything important. You've just stopped feeding the noise. By the end of the week, that thing you thought you needed, it won't feel as powerful anymore. You'll feel something far better: control. And in that control, you'll rediscover drive. Not the hyper kind that burns out fast, but the deep, steady kind that carries you forward. Because you were never meant to live as a slave to impulses. You were built to create, to build, to push through difficulty, and find meaning in effort. That's what your biology is designed for. Every step away from easy dopamine is a step toward becoming fully alive again. And it all starts with one decision: to step back from the noise, to trust the discomfort, and to remember that beyond that short-term unease lies something permanent: clarity, freedom, and peace.